Said my name is Dave Zimmer, and for the last 27 years, my wife Lisa and I have owned Fleet Feet here in Chicago, and we have seen a lot of things happen in our tenure of owning Fleet Feet. We have had 38 couples who have met and married through the store, racing team, run club. So if you talk about people who are running their way, that is one way that they're definitely doing it. Yeah. What app did you say? Better stats than Tinder, right here in the front row. We are off and running for tonight's panel. And we believe in this simple concept that running changes everything. That it is how we are grounded, it is what we believe in, simply because we know that a day with running is better than a day without running. And I thank you all for coming out tonight, because we know that the last few days of being outside in the Chicago area has not been pleasant. And so thank you so much for being out with us tonight. I'm going to introduce our sponsor and of tonight's event. They came up with this concept. They're doing it all over the country. And she is our trackster, which means she is our New Balance tech rep. She knows everything that there is to know about New Balance, all the way back to the very beginning of history of New Balance, right? Sure, yeah, I got a thumbs up on that. Would you please welcome Jillian Manfredi.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. You might have noticed 3 words repeating all over the place here, and it's run your way. And what it's all about really is not just a celebration of running, but validating all different types of runners. Sometimes there's this belief that I'm not a runner because I don't look a certain way or run a certain type of pace, or I'm not training for a race. Whatever the reason may be, there might be this concept of what is like a normal runner. And Run Your Way is about kind of breaking down those barriers, and it's welcoming everybody, inviting everybody to the running community, because I think we all know what an amazing thing it is to be a part of your running community. And like, no matter the way that you run, you should consider yourself a runner. And the panelists that we have here tonight are all people who are so ingrained in the Chicago running community and leaders in their running community, because they welcome people, they invite others to come in, and we're really excited to have them here tonight and just have some conversations about their stories. So we'll start now by kind of introducing them. I'll pass it back to Dave.
Jillian, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, New Balance is awesome, not only as a footwear brand that we carry in the store, but also as a brand partner that we work with nationally. I give the little plug that I love. One thing that's cool about New Balance is they're still privately held. Jim and Ann Davis still own the company. It's not Wall Street. It's not a venture capital company. It's Jim and Ann. And Jim is in his 70s now and still comes to work every day. And he is an awesome guy with a crazy great car collection. So let's introduce our panelists and talk a little bit about running tonight. The first person that we're going to introduce is the Beer Mile World Champion. She'll be defending her title this weekend here in Chicago at Hope Academy, Melanie Pozdol. This man coaches cross country, track, basketball, CES performance, Fleet Feet racing team, loves music, loves concerts, and tells the stories of runners of color with his very own podcast called Keeping Pace. Mike Moreau. Our next panelist started running a mere 2 years ago and currently runs with CS Performance Fleet Feet Racing, and he just completed his first 50-mile race. Josh Rutowski. So you can find our next panelist running with the Midway Mile Chasers. Yes, I wonder who's represented tonight. She and her husband founded that club in 2013, which was the same year that she ran her first Chicago Marathon. She makes a difference in her community simply by running and by giving back. This year, her organization, just as an aside, collected 4,000 diapers for gifts of Liam. Would you please welcome Celia Corral? And our final panelist is a driving force behind Fleet Feet's and CS's performance training program, Fleet Feet Racing. Cynthia is a stand-up comic, as you will hear tonight, a improvisational comic. There's no pressure, none whatsoever. Please welcome Cynthia Kmak. I'm going to let you start with the first question, Jillian.
Oh, thank you. All right. So a beautiful thing about running is that people start at all different times and phases of life. And so just the first question here is, when did you start running, and like how did you discover it?
I guess, do we go down the line?
We can go down the line for this, yeah.
I started running in elementary school, if you guys remember like field day, when you just kind of like go in a field and run around. And I found that I just truly loved it. I ran hurdles in middle school and high school, and honestly just for fun when I was in college and graduate school would like to use running as a way to explore my different neighborhoods. I had a brief, I really got into CrossFit for many, many years, but then found running again in 2019 when I was training for my first Chicago Marathon, and found the Fleet Feet community in CES, and have just been involved ever since.
Hello. I started running, but I'm going to be 38 soon, about 13 years ago now. I ran sparingly off and on in college, but never really would have called myself a runner. And then right before I was turning 25, one of my best friends was like, hey, let's go do a half marathon. It was what's now called it was Chicago Half Marathon back then. And I was like, yeah, I don't really want to do that. And so I was like, I don't really run more than 5 miles. And so she signed up, and then I was like, okay, I feel bad. And so I started running and started to tell I really liked it and just kept going with it, and now I'm on a panel talking about running.
Yeah, so I started doing cross country when I was in middle school. I've been doing running off and on, but I would say that was my first introduction to, I guess my coach in cross country was kind of my first introduction to, wow, this person is really fit. I want to be able to run that fast, because when you're in grade school, you see people run quick, and that's kind of your gauge as to, wow, this looks awesome. And I kind of ran here and there throughout the years through college, and even when I first moved to Chicago. But the one thing I didn't have was a kind of a running community, and and when Mike was kind of talking about it earlier, when I first started running 2 years ago, that was when I first, I guess, committed to running. So having that community through like Chicago Endurance Sports, Fleet Feet Racing Team has really kind of kept me to it, and it's kind of allowed me to continue growing as a runner. So through a lot of the things I do now with like trail running, it's also an expression of being able to go outside and explore nature more, and yeah, see what else I can do. So it's been a great journey so far, and I'm looking forward to kind of what comes next.
So I hate running. So growing up, I'm the oldest of my 5 siblings, and so they were the ones that my boys were very physical, but the girls, we either played with dolls, and as I went to high school, it was really more about boys in school. So running was not something I really wanted to do, but I had my daughter, I think it was about 35, 36, she had turned 4 years old, and I kept blaming all the baby weight, and she was 4 years old, and that just wouldn't go away. So I knew I couldn't do that anymore. And so I started running like a lot of my friends and people I know for weight loss, and that was in 2010. I started feeling sick and had to see a doctor. I've worked in pharmacy for it would have been 30 years, and I knew that the moment I went to see a doctor and told him that I wasn't feeling well, that they were going to start telling me to take medication, and I knew there were side effects with that. So the best thing that I thought would be better for me was to start walking. So running was still not it. My vocabulary was really about walking. At that time, my husband would drop me off by the airport, and I would go to one corner not knowing how long that was. Now I know that from one corner to the other corner, it's 1 mile. So I felt like I went on forever, but he'd pick me up. And then as I started to becoming a little bit more intrigued with the whole running and the walking, he said I could not do it alone. And so I went onto social media and said, okay, who wants to come running with me? So in 2010, I trained for a 5K, almost 6 months. I know it's crazy, a whole 6 months for 5K, but when you don't know anything about running and shoes and all that, I was really afraid, and I just went for it. So I did the 5K and fell in love with it. It was a great 5K here in the city of Chicago. It was in October, which is one of my favorite weathers. And after I did that 5K in October, a week later, I had my husband sign me up for the next one. And then I ran a running club, and then after that, running community and the people that run in run clubs, they're the best. I mean, they keep you accountable, and I think that's why my club exists for so long, because we start off as like running partners, and like we say hi to each other, and then I'm doing podcasts with this gentleman over here. So it's just the best. So yeah, that's me.
I wanted to be a runner when I was in junior high and high school because my older sisters were in cross country and track, and I'm like, heck yeah, I want to do that. And I signed up and I DNF'd every single race. I couldn't even run like over a mile because I would hyperventilate, and And then my junior year in high school, I did finish a cross country meet. That's right. I was second to last, and I finished. And then I was offered a part in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, so I quit the team. So that I could be a thin and fat cow. So running was pretty much off the table for me. And then I got to college, and a couple of my roommates were runners. I'm like, that is so unhealthy for your knees. And that's not true. I don't know if you know that. So after college, and in college, I would run like this 3-mile loop with one of my roommates. I didn't have a watch. I would look at the clock when I left the dorms, and then I would run my 3-mile loop, and I'd come back, and I'm like, I won't be late for class. So I did that like every other day. And then after college, I broke my elbow, dislocated my elbow, and fractured my radial head, and couldn't run for like 6 months. Couldn't do anything except get real depressed, which is what I did. And after that, one of my friends, once I was able to start moving my arm again and running, my friend's like, I signed up for a marathon, and I'm like, good for you. And she was like, her name is Becky, and she was like, let's go for some runs together. So I would do a 3-mile route. And then there was one day where we were just chatting and talking, and when we got back from our run, she's like, you just ran 10 miles. And I was like, you are rude. And after that, I signed up for my first marathon, and then and that was when I was 26, and ever since then, I haven't looked back. I absolutely love it. It has changed my body, my mind, and just every part of me. So yeah.
Radiohead, that's one of my favorite bands, right? Yeah. All right, next question I want to ask, because I just want to get this out of the way. Mel, this weekend, you have something coming up. And I think this panel kind of was involved in your last foray into the Beer Mile World Championship. Let's talk Beer Mile for just a moment. Tell us, because that seems to be a part of your inspiration for running, is it not?
Yes, I guess it's become like definitely like a part of my identity these days. So how many of you guys know what a beer mile is? It's okay if you don't know. So the beer
Explain it in all detail, because it's amazing and they'll be transfixed.
A beer mile is where you run, chug a beer, and then you run a lap on a track. And
Quarter mile.
Yeah, and you do that 4 times as fast as possible. And I actually do owe Fleet Feet the thanks of starting off my beer miling career, just because Fleet Feet racing team will sometimes do some underground beer miles, and I begged one of the coaches to host one a couple years ago, and I discovered my talent at chugging quickly and also running quickly, which was like very exciting because we have a lot of fast men on our team, but I was like catching them every time we would get to the chug zone. And so from there, just through a series of different beer miles, like about a year ago, I was discovered, I guess you could say, I don't know, and was invited to compete at the U.S. Women's Championships, which was held here, and it was held. It was held here in Chicago. This is like terrible to admit, but I was like exactly 5 days after having tested positive from COVID. Anyway, so I ran, and then from there, like all of the women ran super fast. We all broke 7 minutes. I ran my PR, as it turns out, and then got invited to go to Belgium for the Beer Mile World Classic, where I was crowned Women's World Champion. Yeah, and there were 2 people who crossed the finish line ahead of me, but they got disqualified. The Beer Mile is this fun and silly event, but there are a lot of like strict rules. So make sure you finish your beer, make sure you chug inside the chug zone, and the other 2 gals did not do that. So yeah, and so this year the World Classic is here in Chicago on Saturday. There are still tickets available if you want to spectate. The women's championship race will be at 7 p.m. at Chicago Hope Academy, which is kind of near the United Center. So if you want to see a bunch of people chug beer and run fast, it'll be a lot of fun.
Did anybody know they were coming to see a world champion tonight?
Yeah.
Big round of applause for Mel.
Oh, and Mike just reminded me, there will be a live stream too, so like you don't have to be there, but it will be on YouTube.
Does anybody get ill during this?
We call it a reversal of fortune.
Thank you so much for that. That was a lot of detail. I was having so much fun. I just love the fact that it's like a kids game, but with beer. You know, imagine if you told you have to run a quarter mile, then you have to chug some water, which is I'm sure how you started doing it was by chugging water.
I think I started by just doing a lot of Irish car bombs in college, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know. And I play the oboe, so I think that helps with like breath control.
Okay, I'm just enjoying the random facts now. That's a
Yeah.
What's your PR?
6:37. Yeah.
And
So I would love to break 6:30, but we'll see.
didn't Cynthia help you train as well? What was that like, Cynthia, helping Mel?
The fun part is when, especially during Fleet Feet racing team, Mel will bring some often O'Doul's or sparkly water, and sometimes at 6 a.m. To the track. And when everyone else is finishing their workout, Mel will do some 400s and chug in between them, and it's great practice. And I've never seen Mel have a reversal of fortune.
I gotta tell you, I'm so proud right now.
So are my parents.
All of our people coming together. It's all good. I want to jump on the mic and talk about, Mike, a couple of years ago you started the Keeping Pace podcast, and it was to tell stories that weren't being told. What was the inspiration? What has been kind of the highlights of people you've talked to and things that you didn't think you'd uncover?
Honestly, part of it is I didn't know there were a ton of black podcasters back then. I have a journalism background. I graduated from University of Missouri with a journalism degree and audio editing, so I kind of knew how to do it. And so I was like, well, it's during quarantine. I got nothing else to do, so let me just start it up. So I started buying the equipment and just reaching out to people. And 3 years later, 44 episodes. It's just been, I can't believe it's still going, to be honest, because I'm still surprised people want to talk to me and tell their stories. And I always joke with people, like Cynthia especially, is like, I'm a pretty quiet person, but all of my jobs involve a lot of talking. So it's just been really cool to hear why people are running, how they started. And it's just been a variety of ways and like their ideas of how, to make this sport a little bit more welcoming and diverse. So it's cool to talk, honestly. It's just like a conversation with people.
And Mike, who was the most recent person you had on your podcast?
Yeah, Celia and I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago, and I published her episode. Was it yesterday? I believe. Yeah. So, gotten a lot of good feedback on that. So it was really fun. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, but what's up? Keeping Pace podcast. Yeah, and basically we connected because of this panel, and so I reached out, and hopefully you all listen to it. She has a really cool story.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah, I'll jump to you right now, Celia, if you want to just talk a little bit about like founding your running club and like just the experiences, the people you've met, how far it's come over the years, because over a decade now, right?
Yeah, I can't believe it. It's been a long time. Yeah. I started the club in 2013. As I said, I started running in 2010, and I didn't want to run alone. Couldn't go by myself, and I live in south side of Chicago by Midway. There weren't back then in 2010. There wasn't a lot of people running around the airport, and so by 2013, I had met the right group of people in the running industry. It was a small club that I had joined at that time, maybe about 12 of us. And the group started to grow, but traveling from Midway to Pilsen, if you guys all know Pilsen, there's never any parking. So it just started to be, it wasn't fun anymore for me. And then I had a 4-year-old, and so it was a lot of work. So I opened the club in 2013, and it did really well. I was telling Mike that our first event, the first day we came out to, the first day of the actual opening to Midway was at a park called Vidum. Am I saying that right? I always say that wrong. It was in Vidum. It's a small park in the neighborhood. And so we told everyone. We went on social media. We visited friends. We told all our friends, people that weren't even running. They were so supportive. We had 30 to 50 people that day just come out from everywhere. It was so cool. The park district there welcomed us. They were so cool about it. But again, we're in the south of Chicago, not the best. So the police was out there, and they're like, "What is happening? Why are you guys out here?" And I remember they're like, "Oh, the cops are there. The cops are there. They're looking to talk to the person that's putting this together." And here I come. Hi, it's me. They're like, "What's going on?" And I said, "Well, we're running." And then I remember him saying, "Where are you running from?" I said, "Well, no, I mean, we're a bunch of runners. I don't look like one, but I am." And so we're starting to run club here in Midway, and it's going to be running Mondays and Wednesdays. And he's like, "Oh," and I remember his expressions. But yeah, we started running that day, and there was so many people that I had no business running a club, because I really didn't know that there were so many pacers and so many different routes, and it was just crazy. But we just did it, and we broke down the groups, and everyone went out, did 3 miles, and everyone came back. And I remember thinking, I hope we didn't leave anyone behind, but thankfully we didn't. No one got lost, and it was a great run. And we've been there for the past 10 years. I do remember that the most important thing I've learned from having this group is what my husband told me from the very beginning. Stay consistent. It doesn't matter if you get one person or two. It doesn't matter if you just get if you get 30 one day and one again. It's all about the consistency and the quality of the runner, not the quantity. And it's so true, because I've been there for the 10 years where we've had a group of 60, and I didn't get to meet everyone. And for me, that's important. Like, to me, that even now, I'm still running with someone, and I'm learning something from them, whether if we're talking about shoes or where they traveled and they ran, or where they want to run, or just hearing the stories why they started. Again, my story started from weight gain, and then it's so much more. It's helped me with not just weight gain, but I never knew I had anxiety. I'm Latina, so I'm always anxious, and I'm always, ups and downs. That's who I am. But I realized, as I started doing the more running, that if I had a bad day, running just helped me. If I had a good day, that helped out too. So hearing those stories with my runners, it was just great. So we've been there ever since. 10 years now, Monday and Wednesday, rain, shine, except for thunderstorms. Yeah.
So I want to ask the next question to Josh, because you're kind of the newbie here. Just hearing the different stories going on. Running is a lot of self-reflection and a lot of time to yourself, especially if you're going for a longer distance. You started off 2 years ago with shorter distances.
Yeah.
How did you get yourself to be inspired to go for something that was as long as 50?
That's a good question. I'm not sure there was a one moment where I was like, I want to go longer than a marathon. So I did the Chicago Marathon in October, and then actually a pacer from Chicago Endurance Sports was like, well, if you did the marathon, you should sign up for the Lakefront 50K ultra marathon. So I did that, and actually I had a few people come out and pace me, and I'm like, this is a lot of fun. I think I could go a little bit longer, and I'm like, and one of the races that was recommended was the Ice Age 50. So I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and sign up for that one.
You live in Chicago where it's flat, right?
Yeah. So
Ice Age is not exactly flat.
Yeah, so it took a lot. So one of the biggest things I had to do was A, get a car, and B, learn how to parallel park. And then after that was being able to go to Palos and actually train for trails, spend a lot of time on the Stairmaster. I actually went back out and did a 38-mile race on the same Ice Age trail a few weeks ago. And I've really enjoyed being able to go out and kind of explore nature in that way. It's really cool because, like you said, we live in Chicago where it's so easy to forget that, there's this beautiful nature that's kind of at our backyard. So it's a great way or a great excuse for me at least to go out and explore it. So yeah.
What was it like crossing the finish line?
It was great. I was pretty tired for sure, but I felt really good. It was one of those things where I never had a doubt that I was going to finish it, but there were definitely moments where I was like, this could have been better, and you kind of start going through the checklist of all the things that you trained for in terms of nutrition and maybe stuff that would have lacked during the race, and thinking about ways you can improve for the next one. But either way, very happy to have finished it, and yeah, I was so happy to have just my friends who came out and supported me for it.
We know that running can be a always or never type of proposition. I'm never going to do that ever again, or I'm going to sign up for the next one and do it next. So Cynthia, my question for you is, you inspire people all the time through coaching. What made you turn on that switch and give so much of yourself back to other people in order to help them find their own finish line?
Great question, Dave. When I started running long distances, I learned so much about myself, and I gained so much self-confidence. And it's like, if I can give that gift, man, right? And like all the people that I've helped through running, like, have given back to me 20-fold. Like, anytime there's something going on in my life, whether it has to do with running or not, like, the running community has really shown up. It was very apparent, like, 2 years ago when my mom passed away and I had to leave, and I had to leave, like, I'm a comedian, as you can tell, because I'm crying in front of a bunch of people. And so, like, my work is very, like, whatever I want to do, baby. So for the time when my mom passed away and when she was sick, like, I couldn't work because I was just not able to be anywhere but with my family. And when I came back from that, like, I had bags of groceries at my apartment and gift certificates to, like, get food and, like, just a wad of cash, thank you, to, like, help supplement the employment that I had lost. And there's no other kind of people except for runners that do that. Like, we've got each other's backs, you know? And so, yeah, any opportunity I have to give back to the community, I do. Like, if I can pace a friend for a marathon, if you talk me into running a marathon and you're like, I'd like to hit this goal, and if it's feasible for my body to do that, I will do that. Yeah, like and I just have so much energy, so like, hey, let me take it out on this group of people. And, you know, they usually don't find me annoying, or if they do, they run faster than me, so good for them.
Thank you so much for sharing all that, Cynthia.
Yeah.
And it kind of really ties into like the running community and how meaningful and significant and impactful it can have on your life and the people that you meet and those relationships. So I kind of just want to throw this out here to all of you. What's a relationship that you've formed through running, somebody that you've met through running, a bond you've created that's been very meaningful to you, that you've found somebody through running?
Whoever wants to go first.
Whoever wants to go first.
No, I met my husband. I'm just kidding. Just kidding, I'm single.
We have 2 comics. Who's next? Who wants to go?
I can go first.
No, well, I was gonna say that like through CES and Fleet Feet, I've met so many really great friends. There's some of them in the audience today and up here as well. But really, just the Chicago running community has been so amazing. There are so many different running groups, and I feel like I've really been able to tap into several different groups, like Universal Soul, Lakeview Run Club, Westtown Brew Crew, are just a few of the groups that I've run with. And I don't know, it's just like fun to have an expanded community of friends that you can just like go out and run with or go out and chug a beer with, which is what I do.
I've met a lot of people through through running. I've stood up in some of my friends, some of the people that I've met through running in their weddings. But I want to say that I think the strongest relationship I have is, even though he's my husband, is through running we communicate really well. You know, like he does his kind of own running. He likes to do a lot of the 5Ks. I'm more of long endurance, but if I ever have any questions about running or when it comes to my group, I think that's where we both can sit down and we help each other. He helps me, and I don't think if we didn't have that running, we wouldn't be as connected as we are, because he understands what it means to me, and I think that's very important in a relationship, very supportive. And I've met some really great people. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of people from my group here, but like Patty, I know my friend Patty. What have we run? 5 years now, almost 4 or 5 years. And a couple years ago, she struggled with, is it okay? Yeah, she had breast cancer, and I remember it was very scary for all of us because we were very close, and we are still very close. And when she told us, all of us came together. We were all in tears, and we did one last run before she started her treatment. And we, rather than just crying, we celebrated with her, and the connection that brought us together, and to see that she's still here with us, and she never gave up. And even after her treatment, we all reach out to her, come visit her, and even though she never wanted to come outside, she just kind of waved from the window. You know, I think running really tied us together. I don't think I would have met Patty B or Vladdy or Ruthie. I've been wanting to meet Ruthie for years. And now we found out we live really close to each other, and you know, and we have family that is connected. So it's really awesome. Yeah.
To be honest, it's just in so many different ways. Like, I'm coaching with CES because of Cynthia. Worked at Fleet Feet for almost 11 years. Coaching high school kids. It's just a variety of ways and things that how running has impacted my life, and it's honestly pretty incredible for someone who never really ran until they were 25, and now it's a huge part of my life because I'm here because of it. Because if I wasn't running, I doubt any of you would know who I am. So, but it's pretty fun to just like form a lot of these relationships. Like, just had Celia on my podcast. So it's just like there's many different ways and many relationships I've formed that never would have without running. So it's really cool to honestly just be here because of it and meet a variety of people I might have never really spoken to.
Yeah, for sure. So similar to you, I mean, I've just met so many different people, and it's affected so many aspects of my life. From one of my good friends who I met through Fleet Feet Racing Team, kind of helped me get the new job I just started 3 weeks ago, all the way to just the people I interact with when I run every week to kind of push myself further, to kind of continually getting better and better. Like Mike said, like running is just such a big part of my life now. And part of that's only because of the people I interact with and that I talk to. So I consider them all equally as important relationships to me as I kind of keep going further.
Yeah, I think running has really broadened my friend group. I'm friends with comedians, clearly, but now I'm friends with people who are also healthy. And I've found that there are comedians that want to be healthy and that are like, hey, how do I do this, this, and this? I'm like, well, let me tell you how to run. So, like, there are people that I run with that are like 18, like Sydney, who is on the racing team, is one of our youngest racing team members, also employed for Fleet Feet. And I run with people who are in their 70s, who have run like 40 marathons. And to be able to do that all in like the same run is pretty amazing. And especially if you're doing endurance running, which is anything over a mile, I think. You really get to know people, and like, because people are out there and like every time they're running further distances or doing something hard that they thought they could never do, like they automatically become vulnerable, and you get to hear a lot of stories, and you get to hear a lot about people's lives that you wouldn't otherwise, like that it would maybe take 6 months down the road of like hanging out with people, and you get to hear it like in 2 hours, whether you want to or not. But the thing is, like, everybody does want to hear that. In the running community, it's super supportive. People, I feel, no matter what your background is, like when you're out there on a run, when you're on the trail, like you can be honest with people, be vulnerable, and it's okay to be wrong, and it's okay to learn new things. And I think it's so important in just culture in general for people to be doing things that help them be healthy, but also help them like mentally be healthy too, which I think the running community has really helped me and has shown me, and I think it's shown a lot of people. So.
Thank you. Yeah, so that's actually like with running, it really transcends into life in so many ways, and it can teach us so many different things about ourselves and just like important life lessons. And if you had to like name the most important thing that running has taught you, what would that be?
Well, I can go first. Running has taught me that if I believe I can do it, my body is capable of amazing things. When I signed up for my first 50 miler, I was like, and I say my first, I've only done one, but I'll do another one. I'll do another one. You just drive me there and I'll do it. Yeah, and drive me back. Yes, thank you. You're running home. I didn't think that my body could physically do that. I was like, there's no way that I'm going to be able to run this entire thing. So like at mile 31, which I'd done a 50K before, I'm like, yeah, now this is where we walk, Cynthia. And I started doing run walk intervals, and I was like, it's gonna take a little bit longer if I do this, and I want this to be done. So then I just ran the rest of it and felt so shocked every mile. I was like, this is the most I've ever run, and I feel good. I mean, good is like, we can put quotes around that. I feel like I'm gonna continue living. And when I crossed the finish line, I was like, I probably could have done another mile. And I was just so astonished because I hear so many people like, I could never be a runner. And anytime, even if it's a stranger, it's like, I could never do that. I'm like, you could. You 100% could. I'm like, even if you didn't have actual legs, you could still be a runner. Like, if you have the mind to do it, you can absolutely do it. It's ourselves that are like, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't. And like, screw that. You can. You absolutely can. If you are determined and dedicated to something, you can do it.
Just come straight down the line.
Okay. So, a couple things. I mean, I've been doing it for a while, so I've learned, I guess, every year it's something new that I'm learning. When I first started running, the first thing I keep thinking about is kind of like what you said. I could do this, you know. You look at me, I don't look like a runner, right? Still on the heavy side.
You do look like a runner.
And so, you know, I'm not fast. My own fast. So I learned that I should be just happy and grateful that I crossed the finish line. And so that's the first thing I think I learned from running was that I can do this. And I went from many 5Ks to, you know, marathons. And then my first ultra took me 7 hours. That I never wanted to do it, and then did 3 more after that. So I learned that, like you said, if you really want to, you could. It's just a matter of, you know, pushing through. There's going to be many obstacles and many more after that, but just don't give up on it. Don't give up what you want, and you're going to get there. I want to say that is what I learned the last maybe 7 years, 8 years in my running. But in the last 2, 3 years, I've learned that I've had some health issues. I had first stage ovarian cancer. I didn't have to go, you know, had to do therapy. It was good, but that's very different for a woman. So I had to learn how to deal with goes with that, and so that kind of stopped me from doing the marathon 2 years ago. And so that was really hard because, you know, leading a running group, I realized then that I wasn't just running to do the marathon for myself. I had a lot of people watching me, including my daughter. So that was hard, and so I had to, you know, push that to the side. And then I kept telling myself, it's gonna get better. And I felt better, and then I busted my knee. So I busted my knee, and so I had to delay my running a little bit longer. And so then I've gone 3 years without doing long distance running, a few 2, 3 milers, 5 miles. And that's really hard for someone that's been running for so long and ran almost every day. You know, if I wasn't running with my group Mondays and Wednesdays, I was running, you know, before the group or on Tuesdays and Thursdays when I wasn't going to meet with the running group. So I've taken 3 years almost and stepped back on that mileage. And so what I want to say is that what I've still learned from the small 2 miles or 3 miles is to be gentler to myself. That's what running's taught me. To be grateful, whether it's 1 mile or 2 miles. I may not be able to hit the trails like I used to, and my husband, more than anything, that I love the trails. That's where you leave it all behind. But I know that they always say the comeback is sweeter. So hopefully next year I'll go get that 100 miler we talked about. You're gonna help me pace. It's on media now. So I mean, I got goals, and that's what I've learned from running the last couple of years. That it's whether 1 or 2 miles, be grateful, be gentle to your body, and say, okay, I did 1, and 1 is good.
Yeah, for me, I think one of the thing that comes to mind is patience. Patience not only while you're running the race itself, but patience in the process through the training programs. And, you know, for example, there are some days where I feel really good and I want to just run as fast as I can and kind of ignore the workout, which isn't really helpful. I think everyone's been there, but there are also days where you just don't feel like running and you kind of have to hold yourself accountable. So those are some of the big lessons that I've learned. The other thing I would choose would be like self-confidence. So like Coach Cynthia had mentioned, you know, having these goals that at the offset, they seem monumental. So being able to kind of break those down and actually achieve them is huge. And not only from the start of it, of I want to sign up for this race, but also when you get to the race, especially like a marathon or an ultra marathon where you're there and you're at mile 10 and you're like, wow, I have 40 more miles to go. It's really daunting to think of it like that. So kind of conditioning yourself to not think of it that way and really think essentially one foot in front of the other, and go from there. I think that's one of the biggest things. So it's not just applicable to running, but it's also applicable to so many things in our own personal lives. And yeah.
So looks like what I'm learning tonight is don't become friends with runners. You'll end up running ultra marathons or beer miles. That's the fun peer pressure. But what I think I've learned the most from running is that nothing is truly linear. There's going to be so many ups and downs, but as long as you stay the course with so many things, that things usually level out at some point, because running, we all hope to always constantly PR, but that's just not the case. And it's the same thing in life. We're going to have setbacks in a variety of ways, and if you stay patient, that eventually things will level out, and hopefully you hit the goal in a different way. And another thing I've learned is like set tiered goals. Like just things are going to happen in different ways, and there are a variety of ways to be happy, and you're not always going to hit the A goal, but there are different ways to reframe it. So I think the biggest thing I've learned is nothing is linear. There's so many ups and downs and setbacks, but hopefully you just try and keep moving forward.
What you guys all just said really resonated with me. I will say that running, when I started getting into marathon training in 2019, it actually really helped me process what I call my breakup with the oboe. I was a professional oboe player, and that was my full-time job. And really in music school, it's all about, if you're not practicing, somebody else is practicing, and like win a job and like do all of these things. And so people are super type A, super perfectionistic. I certainly fell into that category, still have many of those tendencies, but running just really taught me and really helped me process through a lot of, I guess I can say some of the PTSD I experienced from living that professional music life. I don't regret that I went into that career path, but running just sort of taught me there are ups and downs, and as you keep things consistent, or you want to have something that's super important to you in your life all the time, you don't always need to be setting PRs. It's just showing up every single day. And really, like that first season that I ran my first marathon, I had joined a new orchestra, a community orchestra here in Chicago, and I found that just running and exercise and music just really give me balance in my life, and that's something that I'm always seeking. And when something is out of balance, I just feel super lost. So I think just making sure that everything in my life is kind of like in balance has been really important to me. I would also say that most recently what I've learned from running is that though I love the community, though I love the sport, and running is just such a joy, health is so important, and that be your own advocate when something doesn't feel right, specifically for women. I know for others as well, but get your iron levels checked is my new theme. Just get your iron levels checked. Yeah, thanks.
Health advice right here, everybody. Trying to give a little bit of everything. Running is a really giving activity in sport, not only to the individual, but to the world itself. The amount of money that's raised and goes to charity through running is hard to believe. The single largest day of giving is London Marathon Day 2019, where $72 million went to charity all through running. It's really giving. I was looking at Mont Blanc on a run going straight uphill, and I looked down and I saw a brick on the ground that said Switzerland and Italy. And I looked up and I saw Mont Blanc again. That's what it gave to me. It gave me my best day of running, being able to see something that I've never seen before. What's been your best day of running? We'll start with Cynthia again. Was this not a pre-approved question? Is
I
that
mean,
right?
I'll
Tough
talk to
one.
my agent. Also, I don't have an agent if anyone wants to. My best day of running. That's a great question. Man, I feel like my best day of running is yet to come. I'm getting older, and with every year that gets tacked onto my body, I'm 41. I'm getting faster and I'm getting stronger. Every year I have been able to at least sustain or shave off a little time, or I make new goals. So like when people are like, it's too late for me, it's not. Like my best day of running is yet to come. Especially now that races are allowing non-binary runners, like I can run as my authentic self for several races. My best day of running will be when everyone has that opportunity for every race. That will be my best day of running.
Should mention Cynthia just won first place at the Missoula Marathon in the non-binary category.
Wow. How can I top that?
You see.
All right. So yeah, a lot of them. But I want to say that my favorite, the one that, like, okay, this is it. I have to keep doing this. So as I said, my first ultra, I had no business doing it. I'd just done a marathon that year, and then I did the ultra. Someone did say the same thing. Hey, let's go do an ultra. What, 6 more miles? It's, yeah, I'll be skate. So it was a 50K. So I said, sure, why not? But I think the one that really stood out the most was I had to go back the following year and redeem myself. So that whole year, I trained. I followed a plan, a program. I listened to my body. I had my husband massage one foot, my other daughter massage the other foot. I mean, I really worked hard. And I did the North Face that year, North Face Ultra Run, and both my husband and my daughter went. And it was great. I was running, and I had such a good time. I remember just kind of skipping a few times like I was a kid. And as I got closer to the finish line, I knew my husband and my daughter were there. Remember, the first one I did was 7 hours. I finished this last, the one in North Face, 6 hours and something, so not that bad, right? But my favorite part was my husband was at the finish line with my daughter, and he's like, "You're done? You finished?" I said, "Yes, I crossed the finish line." He's like, "I swear, I thought I had to carry you from the finish line. I thought I was going to find you crying and dead or something." So just to see that look of expression that, you know, he was so happy to see me finish happy and dancing, and my daughter was happy to see me, that right there just said, okay, if you put your mind to it and really work hard at it, you know, you'll have a nice finishing. And I did. Obviously, that was not my finish. After that, I went for some more, and he wasn't there anymore after that. He's like, I'm used to it. But that was my favorite.
Yeah, awesome. So mine would probably be, I think my best days are to come for sure, but the last race I did, it was a 38-mile race, but it was at night. So I actually finished at around 3 a.m. on the Ice Age Trail. But there was a moment in time where I just felt extremely at peace. So it was in the Ice Age Trail in the woods, and you could just kind of hear the wind howling through the trees. There was nobody around, and it was just kind of, all I could hear was my feet kind of, you know, at this cadence, and I actually had no music on for the whole time. But I just felt like I was in my own zone, in my world, and I felt like I could tackle anything. But I just kept going, and I ended up placing 17th in that race out of the 80 that were there. So it ended up being really well because I went into it with absolutely no expectations. It was literally called the 38-mile fun run. So I was there to have fun and, you know, eat some good food, and you know, it was great. So it was definitely, it's the highlight so far. But yeah.
My best day of running actually involves probably one of the worst times I've felt during a race. It's the 2018 Boston Marathon. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that day, but it is the worst weather day I've ever experienced in my life. Hail, rain, 35 degrees, and the hills in Boston, but headwind all the way through. But I finished, and I was pretty impressed with myself, and so it taught me a lot. I was like, yeah, I can do a lot of things, and through a bad day. Also, it was nice to not PR and just be able to I finished it, and it's become my most memorable race because it's one I've never forgotten. I think about pretty frequently every time somebody asks me about racing, and so it ended up being a really fun experience despite shaking for 6 hours afterwards. But it was I think that's probably my best day because it taught me a lot about myself, and that not every day has to be a PR. So
I actually am not going to say the beer mile, though there have been many memorable beer miles. But similarly, actually, this past year, Boston was probably one of my best days of running. I struggled a lot after having COVID last year. Thought that I had long COVID, was just struggling with a lot of anxiety, insomnia, had super low ferritin, which, again, get your iron levels checked. So I just had no idea what was going on with me. Cynthia knows. We've discussed this lots on all runs where I just felt terrible all the time. And sort of midway through training, I had signed up for a half marathon out in Cary, Illinois, and didn't even want to start the race. And my buddy Frank, who's he's such a dad, but he was at the start line, and we were let's just stick together. And we ran together. He cracked a lot of jokes. We had so much fun. I couldn't believe I actually finished that run. And then I was like, Frank, let's run Boston together. And he was like, oh, Melanie, you say that, but you'll be so far ahead of me. We got to the start line of Boston this year, and I was like, Frank, let's run this thing together. And the two of us and another member of CES, or Boston Bound, Mark, we all ran together, and we just had an absolute blast. And I crossed the finish line and wept, ugly cry situation. And I think it was just because it had been so challenging. And again, it's just showing up every single day, being able to do something in spite of where you're not feeling your best, but you're feeling supported by members of your community. So that was just very special to me.
Thank you, Mel. So this will be our final question of the night, and it's really about kind of what we've been talking about for the past half hour, the running community, how special running is, the people we've met, the experiences you've had, the lessons that it teaches you. So what would you say to somebody who maybe isn't a runner, hasn't gotten into it yet, but they want to join, or they're hesitant even to join because they don't maybe consider themselves the normal runner? So why should somebody start running or join their running community, or why should somebody be proud to call themselves a runner? We could start with Cynthia.
Great. I would say to anyone who's I'm not a runner, I don't look like a runner, poppycock. All you have to do is put one foot in front of the other.
I just want to know, were you challenged to put that word into tonight?
No, I wasn't. I'm just trying really
Someone
hard
just
not
got
to
bingo
swear.
somewhere.
I'm trying hard not to swear because I want this to be inclusive. Yeah, I would say anyone who is moving forward while on your feet, you are a runner. People explain to me that they're not a runner till they're blue in the face. And I'm like, but you're out here. You're not sitting on a couch right now. You woke up. Even if you're running for 1 minute at a time, you are running. You're doing the thing. And there's so many people who aren't doing that, who are sitting, who aren't even out walking. So I would say find yourself another person. Find yourself somebody who can motivate you to get you from running 1 minute at a time to 2 to 3 to 4 to 30 minutes. You can be a runner. Once you connect with one other person that wants to do that, you'll connect with 5 other people. And the community there's nobody who runs who will say you're not a runner. I've been coaching for 10 years, and coaching people who do a 15-minute mile and coaching people who do a 5:30-minute mile. And along that whole pace range, when you put those shoes on and you lace up and you go to the start line, or even you just get out of bed and put those shoes on, you are a runner, and nobody would tell you you're not. So get those shoes on, which you can purchase here at Fleet Feet. New Balance, everyone. Gotta love it. Next.
Wow. Yeah, so what she just said, yeah, it's just moving forward. I'm faced with that question every single time I welcome someone new into my run club. In Midway, I always tell the captains or the admins that work with me, we're the entry to running. You know, we start off with a lot of people who don't know the world of running, don't know that they don't even have to put themselves under that category. I always tell them, if you just show up and have whatever running shoes you want to come with, and just go walk with me around the park that we're at, that's it. You're a runner. And I'm so amazed. A lot of times they come for the first time and they always ask, is there anyone doing some walking? And say, yeah, we always have walkers, which is true. We at the very beginning of the season, we always have a walker. Unfortunately, that doesn't last too long. They become runners. But that's the beauty, right? That's the goal, right? But I do always just tell them when they first come out, just give me 4 weeks. Just come out here twice a week. And if you can't come here, especially now more than ever, there are so many clubs out there. And the beauty of all these clubs is that all of them just started walking just like I did, and most of you, we didn't, like I was telling Mike in that interview, I didn't have a track club in my school. My school, I can't even remember if we had any types of clubs. Whatever, I was not really involved in running. Maybe it did. But the point is that, there's so many clubs out there. So if you ever have a friend that says, I see what you do, and I'm only saying this because I hear this often, oh, I see your pictures, you must be fast. Trust me, it's not tall, just I look fast. It's just on social media, but I'm not. And I always say, if you just come to these clubs, you will find someone that's at your pace. Because it's not just about coming out and getting those miles, it's about the people. And once you connect with that one person, that person's gonna hold you accountable. Just like your friend Mark, who said, let's go run. Right? And so yeah, I just think, I always tell the walkers, come out. If you can't come to my club, go to Fleet Feet. Today I worked, every person that was there was buying new shoes, running shoes. They kept saying, oh, I see that there's a run club here, and even letting them know about the run clubs we have at Fleet Feet or other clubs in the neighborhood, and that they don't need to have a certain pace. They just got to get out there. I think that's going to continue what we have here and the world of running.
Yeah, so pretty much what everyone else has already said, but I think that everybody's a runner, whether they know it or not. So everyone starts somewhere, and there is not one mold that fits for what is or is not a runner. I don't think I would fit the traditional mold for a runner either, but I still run. So everyone runs their own way, right? So that'd be my kind of takeaway for it.
I think the one thing I'd say is it's like you never really know where it'll take you. I think Celia's a great example. She's a pharmacy tech for what you said 29 years, and
29 years, yeah.
now I think recently she just took the RRCA certification test. She's working on it to be a coach. I'm here in front of people many of whom I don't know, talking about running, and I don't know where it's going to take me next. So it's been a really fun journey, and I just look forward to it continuing.
I think just having curiosity, my dietitian always says, be curious. And I think if you have a little bit of that curiosity, then you can do it.
Big round of applause for our panel, everybody. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you so much for giving your time and expertise, and actually passion is what I really feel tonight. I also want to give a big thank you to Ansel and Greg and Jillian from New Balance who helped bring this all to life tonight. And we have a question in the front row.
Are you really a comedian? And if so, where do you perform?
Yes, I am really a comedian. I have a show this Saturday. You can catch it after you go to the Beer Mile at IO. It's called World News Tonight. I'm also on the ensemble with Comedy Sports, and I do show when you can see those at Second City, just over there. And I'm also on the ensemble at a theater called Laugh Out Loud, and that's in Schaumburg in the Woodfield Mall.
Cynthia also does a character Bubby
Yes.
and Zadie.
Yes, I play an old Jewish
Cynthia
man.
plays an old Jewish man.
That's right.
It's
Yeah,
great.
it's
I've seen the
hilarious.
show.
Yeah.
I can attest to it.
Check it out. Follow me on Instagram. I rarely post.
Our resident comedian right there, everybody. Very, very nice. So, again, I just want to say thank you to everybody. I want to thank the Fleet Feet staff who helped put this all together. Molly, Stephanie, Kristen, Ryan here closing up the store for us. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Running changes everything. Get out there and run. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
You can run